The ones who told you that you would never become anything significant. The ones who watched you stumble and quietly felt comfort in it. The ones who smiled in front of you while secretly hoping you would remain exactly where you were, limited, restrained, predictable. They tried to confine you, and for a time they succeeded. Not because they possessed strength, but because you accepted their version of you. You absorbed their uncertainty, the way a body absorbs toxins. You carried their insecurities as if they were your own burdens. You lowered your brightness so they wouldn't feel exposed by your glow. But there's something they failed to anticipate. You're still here, still breathing, still observing, still carrying something alive beneath the surface. And that flame, the one they attempted to smother, it never vanished. It retreated, it adapted, it learned to survive in the dark. It transformed into something unfamiliar to them, something they no longer recognize, something they can no longer contain. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that flame. He dedicated his life to studying power, not the obvious kind that demands attention, but the silent kind that moves in shadow. He watched men ascend and collapse. He studied how kingdoms disintegrated, not from outside invasion, but from weakness within. And hidden within his writings lies a framework, a psychological design for becoming untouchable, not emotionless, not cruel, untouchable. The kind of person who can endure insult without flinching, rejection without unraveling, betrayal without losing direction. This is not about revenge. This is not about hardening your heart. This is about confronting a truth so unsettling that most people spend their entire lives avoiding it. The people who wounded you never truly had the power to destroy you. You handed them that power, and tonight you reclaim it. But before we go further, understand this. What you're about to hear will not soothe you. It will challenge you. It will confront the parts of yourself you've been protecting. It will expose patterns you've been excusing. And by the end, you will either walk away unchanged or you will never be the same again. Let's begin. Here is the brutal truth few are willing to admit. Most people are prisoners. Not of circumstance, not of environment, not even of those who wronged them. They are prisoners of an identity that was never authentic to begin with. They constructed themselves around expectations that were never theirs. They reshaped their ambitions into what felt acceptable. They muted their deepest impulses because someone once labeled them dangerous, excessive, wrong, and now they move through life carrying invisible restraints, wondering why everything feels heavy. Machiavelli saw this with unsettling clarity. He wrote extensively about how people enslaved themselves, not through tyrants, but through their hunger for approval. He understood that the most effective control is not violence, it is dependence. When your sense of worth relies on someone else's opinion, you are owned. When you require validation before acting, you have already surrendered. When your decisions revolve around avoiding disapproval, you are no longer free. And the most ironic part, the people holding your chains often have no idea they're doing it. They're simply operating from their own unconscious fears, projecting their limitations onto you. And you absorbed it because you were young, because you trusted, because you didn't yet know better. But you are no longer that version of yourself. Now you see. The real question is, what will you do with that awareness? Machiavelli once wrote that a man who insists on acting virtuously at all times will be ruined among those who do not. This is not an invitation to abandon integrity. It is a warning, a wake-up call. It means that if you wait for the world to become fair before you begin moving, you will remain still forever. The world is not fair. People will attempt to restrain you, not always out of malice, but because your evolution exposes their stagnation. Your bravery reflects their hesitation. Your ascent reminds them of their own excuses. So they will say things like, be realistic, don't aim too high. Who do you think you are? They will disguise their fear as guidance. They will frame their limitations as care. But here is what they fail to understand. You are no longer seeking permission. Let me ask you something. How many times have you been knocked down? How many defeats have you swallowed? How many nights did you lie awake wondering whether you would ever regain your footing? And yet here you are, still standing, still searching, still unwilling to accept that this is all life has to offer. Do you understand what that means? It means you are unbreakable, not because you are numb to pain, but because pain has not stopped you. It means every attack, every rejection, every betrayal was meant to end your momentum, and it didn't. They failed to break you. not because you are made of stone, but because somewhere within you exists a voice that refuses to surrender, a voice that whispers, "Not yet," a voice that knows with irrational certainty that your story is unfinished. Machiavelli called this quality virtue, not virtue in the moral sense, but an internal force, a fusion of will, adaptability, and relentless forward motion. It is what separates those who shape their destiny from those shaped by events. And here is what most people misunderstand. Virtue is not a trait you either possess or lack. It is built. Every time you rise after being knocked down, you build it. Every time you choose action over self-pity, you build it. Every time you refuse to let another person define your value, you build it. The attacks were never designed to destroy you, they were designed to reveal you. Every wound you carry is proof that you endured something. Every scar is evidence that you continued when surrender would have been easier. You believe your pain weakens you. Your pain is your strength. It taught you lessons comfort never could. It carved depth into you that safety would have left shallow. It gave you knowledge that only fire can provide. The people who tried to break you had no idea what they were shaping. They believed they were crushing you. They were forging you. And now you are ready to understand something Machiavelli understood 5 centuries ago. The same force that attempted to destroy you is the force that made you formidable. Not formidable in violence, formidable because fear no longer controls you. Now we reach the center, the core of the code, Machiavelli embedded within his work, the psychological framework that makes a person unstoppable. It is not a checklist of tactics, it is a shift in perception, a restructuring of how you see yourself in relation to the world, and it begins with one uncomfortable truth. You are alone, not emotionally, not socially, but strategically. No one is coming to rescue you. No one will hand you purpose. No one will fight your battles while you remain a spectator. This is not pessimism, it is freedom, because the moment you stop waiting to be saved, you begin becoming your own salvation. The moment you accept that your life is your responsibility, you reclaim every fragment of power you've been surrendering to others. Machiavelli wrote that he who builds upon the people builds upon mud. He was not claiming people are worthless. He was saying that if your foundation is external approval, it will collapse under real pressure. Your foundation must be internal, your sense of value, your direction, your reason for rising each morning. These cannot be borrowed, they must be claimed fully, unapologetically. The second part of the code is this: emotions are information, not instructions. Most people are governed by what they feel. They feel fear and retreat. They feel anger and lash out. They feel doubt and freeze. But Machiavelli recognized something deeper. Emotions are signals. They reveal what is happening beneath the surface, but they are not commands. You are not obligated to obey them. The untouchable mind experiences everything, yet is ruled by nothing. It notices fear without fleeing. It recognizes anger without reacting impulsively. It senses doubt without surrendering to it. This is not suppression, this is discipline. You do not become cold, you become sovereign, free to choose your response instead of being hijacked by reflex. And here is the third element of the code, perhaps the most dangerous. You must learn to wear masks, not to deceive, but to endure. Machiavelli understood that the world does not reward full exposure, it rewards strategy. The person who reveals everything becomes predictable. The person who withholds becomes powerful, not false, selective. You do not owe everyone access to your inner world. You do not need to justify yourself to those who have not earned your truth. You can be warm without being vulnerable to exploitation. You can be kind without being naive. The mask is not dishonesty, it is protection. It is the understanding that depth should be revealed with discernment. And when you master this, something shifts. When others can no longer weaponize your openness against you, they lose their leverage. They sense something different about you, something they cannot easily read, cannot easily manipulate. That is when power quietly changes hands. Here is what no one tells you about becoming unstoppable. It is not about speed. It is not about intensity. It is not about smashing through every barrier with brute force. It is about inevitability. The unstoppable person moves like water. When obstructed, they do not waste energy colliding with the wall. They adjust, they redirect, they wait, they persist, but they never abandon the direction of their movement. Machiavelli observed this in leaders who endured while others collapsed. They were not always the strongest, not always the loudest. They were the most adaptable, the most patient, the most willing to alter tactics without abandoning objectives. "Fortune favors the prepared mind," he wrote. But beneath that was a deeper meaning. You cannot dictate what happens to you, but you can determine how prepared you are when it does. Most people attempt to predict the future. The Machiavellian mind prepares for multiple outcomes. It develops contingencies. It acquires skills that function in chaos. It cultivates flexibility that makes it dangerous in any environment. You cannot stop water. You can only divert it for a time. Eventually, it finds its path. That is what you are becoming. Not a force that shatters walls, but a force that outlasts them. And here is the psychological shift that makes this possible. You must detach from the illusion of timing. Most people quit, not because their goal is impossible, but because it is delayed. They operate by an internal clock that whispers, if it hasn't happened by now, it never will. That clock is fiction. It was implanted by a culture obsessed with immediacy. But depth requires time, mastery requires time. Becoming who you are meant to be takes longer than becoming who others expected you to be. Machiavelli did not write The Prince in youth. He wrote it after exile, after imprisonment, after torture, after losing status and influence. He wrote it from the ruins of his previous life, and that work reshaped political thought forever. Your most significant creation may emerge from your darkest chapter. Your real impact may begin when everything appears finished, but only if you refuse to stop. Not because of failure, not because of delay, not because of voices suggesting you should have arrived already. You are not behind, you are being built. Now let's bring this into reality. How do you embody this? How do you take Machiavelli's hidden architecture and apply it to daily life? First, audit your dependencies. Write down every person, every outcome, every external condition you believe you require to feel stable. That list reveals your chains. That is where your power leaks. Then ask yourself, what would happen if this disappeared? Not to provoke fear, but to detach your stability from what you cannot control. The one who requires nothing external to remain whole cannot be threatened. Second, train your response window. Whenever something provokes you, observe the space between trigger and reaction. At first, that space will feel non-existent. You will react before recognizing choice, but with awareness, that space expands. And inside that space is your authority, the ability to choose silence over eruption, strategy over impulse, clarity over survival reflex. Third, practice strategic invisibility. Stop broadcasting your plans. Stop narrating your progress. Stop proving your value to those who have not asked. Let results speak. Let silence unsettle those who expected noise. Let absence carry more weight than presence ever did. The world is obsessed with visibility, but the most consequential moves happen unseen, in discipline no one applauds, in hours no one witnesses, in decisions that receive no recognition. Fourth, construct your inner council. Not only living mentors, though a few sharp minds matter, but thinkers from the past who left behind maps. Machiavelli is one, Marcus Aurelius on discipline, Robert Greene on strategy, Carl Jung on the shadow. These are not merely authors, they are mirrors. They reveal dimensions of you that comfort would rather avoid. Return to them when you falter. Let their insights recalibrate you when the world attempts to distort you. And fifth, the most essential, commit to the long horizon. Not applause, not shortcuts, not fleeting validation. Commit to the slow, quiet construction of something unshakable, something rooted in internal truth, not external praise. This is the Machiavellian path. Not tyranny, not cruelty, sovereignty. Full ownership of your mind, your direction, your fire. So here you stand, at the conclusion of this, yet truly at the beginning. You have heard the framework, you have seen the pattern. Now only one question remains. Will you apply it? Knowledge without action is entertainment. You can feel inspired now and return to the same habits tomorrow. Or you can decide in this moment that something fundamental has shifted, that the person who entered this message is not the same one leaving it. They could not restrain you because you are no longer stagnant. They could not break you because you rebuilt yourself, stronger, sharper, quieter. They cannot stop you because you have stopped asking permission. The code is simple. Own yourself, Master your reactions, move quietly, prepare for everything, attach to nothing. That is the architecture of the untouchable. Machiavelli understood it 5 centuries ago, and now so do you. The only question is what you will do with the next 500 days. Will you construct or return to the chains? If something within you awakened, leave 2 words below. I am unbreakable, not for anyone else, but to mark this decision for yourself. And if you are not ready to say that yet, that is acceptable. Just remember this, the fire remains, it never disappeared. It was waiting for you to stop apologizing for its intensity.